Mr. Fallon, if this is right, it was a terrible error to call this election in the first place, wasn't it?
Well, let's see some actual results to see if this is borne out. This is a projection. I think you made that clear. It's not a result. These exit polls have been wrong in the past. I think in 2015 they underestimated our vote. I think in a couple of elections before that they overestimated our vote. So I think we do need to see some actual results before we can interpret this one way or the other.
Well, put it like this. If this were to be close to the result, in other words, that you maybe just had a majority, you certainly wouldn't have what you were all looking for, which was a big, safe majority in the House of Commons. People were talking about majority of 30 or 40 or 50 only a few weeks ago.
Well, we didn't. I never believed the original poll showing us 20 points ahead. In an election, you get a tightening between the major parties. That was clearly happening this time. But as I said, I think it's very early to start on the basis, of what is a projection before we've had a single actual result. Let's wait and see the seats coming through. All
right, John McDonnell, what about you? You're encouraged, obviously, by the prediction of 34. If that happens, you and Jeremy Corbyn remain in charge of the Labour Party, presumably.
I'm going to surprise you. I'm going to agree with Michael for the first time possibly ever. But there you are. We have to have some scepticism about all polls at the moment.
All right.
We've got it wrong in the past in terms of polling. So I would agree. Let's see some results before we come to some conclusions.
So what do you have to say about the election campaign from your point of view?
We tried to have an extremely positive campaign. We modelled it around Jeremy's character. If you remember when he stood for the leadership, his slogan at the time was honest politics, straight talking. That's what we've tried to do, a positive campaign throughout. And if it is reflected in this sort of levels of support, I think it does change the nature of political discourse to a large extent in our country now. Because I think people have got fed up of the Yahoo politics and some of the nasty tactics that have gone on in recent years. And I think a positive campaign, if it comes out like this, I think it will improve politics in this country overall.
What did you think about their campaign?
I thought it was pretty nasty. I thought it was very nasty. I thought at times it dragged us into the gutter, and I didn't like that. But let's put that to one side. If the result is anywhere near like this, it means positive politics has actually succeeded.
Nasty campaign?
No, I don't agree with that. Our campaign focus was on leadership.
You know what he's thinking of? I don't know what he's thinking of.
No, I don't know what he's thinking of.
What were you thinking of?
Our campaign focus was on strong leadership. It was on getting the Brexit negotiations right. It was on setting out some of the big social and economic challenges that face this country, which, frankly, leaving aside any of the personal stuff, Labour ducked. They pretended there was some magic money tree, and they never really answered
Michael,
how they were going to spend billions on this.
Right, well, let's not refight the campaign.
Okay,
You've got Brexit talks starting in 11 days' time from now, really serious talks about the future of this country.
Absolutely.
That was hardly discussed in the campaign. There wasn't a stall laid out on Brexit, and now, if this is right, Theresa May hasn't got the sort of massive support from the country that she was hoping to get to allow her to do whatever it is she wanted to do, which she never told us.
No, we did bring the campaign back to Brexit, and we
You never said what kind of Brexit you were going to have.
Oh, we did. We set out the 12 negotiating objectives. We set out that we want a deep and special partnership with Europe based on economic cooperation, being careful about the trade we already do with Europe while looking for new markets.
We never really, Michael, we never really got into the...
Honestly, also on security cooperation.
Let's be honest about this.
Share intelligence.
We never really got into the debate on Brexit that we should have had. But also, what...
Is that your fault as much
as
it is?
I think just generally we didn't.
Did you have a policy on it?
Well, yes, we did, and I think we
could have... another referendum?
Well, no, not at all. You know that. See, that's the sort of politics that people are rejecting. You've got to be straightforward and honest with people now, and you should not parody other parties' political positions. People are rejecting that now. And I think what was interesting is that Theresa May went with one question about Brexit to the electorate, and that was going to be the central question to of the whole election. And people said, well, actually, there are other issues we want to discuss.
Okay.
I remember the 1974 general election, if you remember, when the government then, Ted Heath, went to the country and said, with the question, who rules Britain? It was the miners' strike at the time. And people said, well, that isn't what the question is. The question is about our living standards, about our public services, future of the country.
Just briefly, David, I think it's fair to say neither main party really got into the weeds on Brexit. There's no question about that, really. But just looking at these numbers again, if they are proven to be right, then what was called during the campaign the Progressive Coalition would tot up to 318 seats, as opposed to the Tory seats of 314. Now, they might be able to rely on Northern Irish seats, the DUP, in order to rule, but we could be in a position where the combined forces of the SNP, the Labour Party, Greens and Plaid would be equal to the Conservatives, and that could make for some very interesting days ahead.